Hello, my name is Reverend Donna Maurer, and I am the spiritual leader of the Sonoran Desert Center for Spiritual Living in Amado, Arizona. We're here on Zoom today with Heather O'Day, our music director, and our practitioner of the day, Melinda Mutch. We thank you for sharing your time with us, and Heather is going to ring the bells that open our service.
Thank you, Reverend Donna. My name is Heather O'Day, and I'm the music director at the Sonoran Desert Center. And let's begin our bells to begin this beautiful service today.
I'm Melinda, and I want to have you join me in our invocation. We're so glad that you're all here, and let my words be your words. In this moment, I stop spinning. I make a choice to connect with the divine. I take a breath, and I relax into knowing I am all that I seek. I am the peace that calms my mind. I am the love that soothes my soul. I am the answer that seeks resolution. My desires, my fulfillment, my complete synchronicity is right here, right now, in this moment where I am. It's so comforting to know this is my truth. And together we say, and so it is.
How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone else notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Wow, thank you, Heather. Well, before we begin our new theme and topic, as a spiritual leader, I find it necessary to weigh in on the events of this last week. Both the death of Mr. Floyd and the peaceful protests being hijacked by those wanting to stoke the flames of racism both angered me and it made me cry. Every commentator professed that racism in America is systemic. And I thought, I'm glad I'm not a racist. And then I thought again. I grew up in an all-white neighborhood in the Midwest. My parents had a little home that they rented out. And when it was vacant, they had a signed lease. So if any person of color inquired, they could say that it had just been rented. What did that teach me as a 5-year-old? And where is that now, buried in my old memories? When I lived in Los Angeles and my parents came to visit me, I planned an open house so that I could introduce them to the Sunday school teachers that I loved and worked with at Founders Church. Almost all of them were Black, but I told my parents they were visibly disturbed. After the Sunday service, everyone gathered in my small apartment, and my mom was soon laughing and talking with my friends. My dad was sitting by himself when one of the teachers' 3-year-old girls sat up beside him. Every time my dad turned to enter a conversation, this little girl would muss his hair. And when he turned back, she would pretend that she didn't do it, but her giggles gave her away. This became a game, and of course, when my dad got what was going on, he played too, deliberately turning his head and then back, trying to catch her in the act. The grin on his face said everything. As I watched my dad's apprehension melt at the hands of this little Black girl, I thought of the words, "And a little child shall lead them." And after everyone left, my mom said, "I didn't even notice color." We are afraid of what we don't know. And I would ask every one of us to go deep into our heart. And if we find anything that even hints of racism, take it out, look at it, and get to know it. And then, like my dad, allow our love to melt our fears. Thank you for allowing me to share my heart. All last month, we looked at different aspects of our spiritual quest, so I thought this month we'd look at that spiritual quest through the eyes of our own teaching, the science of mind. And we begin today with Science of Mind as a Path of Self-Discovery. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, tells us that the science of mind is a metaphysical teaching, the study of life, and the nature of the law governed and directed by thought, always conscious that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in, through, around, and for us. We cannot discover our true self if we don't delve into the nature of God or Spirit, because a study of ourselves is a study of God manifesting as us. And a study of God is a study of ourselves, because we are the outlet through which Spirit creates. We cannot separate ourselves from the power and presence of God or Spirit. That would be like trying to separate the wave from the ocean. As Persian mystic Kabir puts it so beautifully, the ocean and its waves are one surf. Where is the difference between the ocean and its waves? When the wave rises, it is the water. And when it falls, it is the same water again. Tell me, sir, where is the distinction? Because it has been named wave, shall it no longer be considered water? So like the wave, we see ourselves as distinct individuals. Yet we are part of this vast ocean of infinite intelligence. And it is this paradox that we are both human and divine that begins our path of self-discovery. Our founder tells us that we should approach this study happily, willing to experiment, and believing that as a result of our efforts, we shall derive a great good, a sound understanding of the natural laws of life as they apply to our own path of self-discovery and to our relationship to the whole universal scheme of things. So the study of science of mind is a study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, the ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation. This is what we call God. This is what Ernest Holmes called the thing itself. He says the science of mind is based entirely upon the supposition that we are surrounded by a universal mind into which we think. This mind, in its original state, fills all space. Therefore, it is in us as well as outside us. As we think into this universal mind, we set a law in motion, which is creative and which contains within it a limitless possibility. Now, Deepak Chopra says that everything is information and energy. And quantum physics tells us that experiments are influenced by the observer. Dr. Holmes was telling us the same thing almost 100 years ago. In fact, the first paragraph of our textbook begins, "We all look forward to the day when science and religion shall walk hand in hand through the visible to the invisible. Science knows nothing of opinion, but recognizes a government of law whose principles are universal. Yet any scientist who refuses to accept intangible values has no adequate basis for the values which he has already discovered. Revelation must keep faith with reason and religion with law, while intuition is ever spreading its wings for greater flights, and science must justify faith in the invisible." So from the scientific standpoint, we know that the observer plays a major part in whatever is being studied. From the standpoint of science of mind, we know that the mind plays a great role in influencing our experience. And that's why our motto, "Change your thinking, change your life," is much more profound than it first appears. So from both the scientific view and the view of science of mind, we find that there is a deep connection between our thoughts, our mind, and our experiences. And this month, as we learn more about it, we will be able to use what we know to a greater degree, so that our path of self-discovery becomes a journey into ourselves, into our innermost being, and then brings that truth into our outer world of affairs. And we know a great deal about the mind and how it works, but we really and truly don't know what it is. We use it as another word for consciousness, and actually it's also a name for God or spirit. And we cannot isolate it in the body because it transcends space and time. Ernest Holmes says, mind, the thing, spirit, causation, is beyond and yet not beyond our grasp. Beyond in that it is so big, within in that wherever we grasp it, we are it to the extent we grasp it. But since it is infinite, we can never encompass it. We shall never encompass God, and yet we shall always be in God and of God. This mind, then, that is infinite is both individual and universal. It is individual in that it is individualized in us. The way we think, the way we process our experiences, the way we understand life is uniquely our own. But there is only one universal mind, and we are always using it as our own through our thoughts and beliefs. I often begin my prayer with the words, "There is one mind, it is the mind of God, it is the mind I use." These words reflect that dual nature, individual and infinite, of mind, spirit, divine intelligence, what Dr. Holmes calls the thing itself. As we study the way mind works, we find that there are two aspects of it: conscious and subjective. It is the conscious part of the mind that we use that makes us unique individuals. We are consciously using intelligence and wisdom at all times of the one mind. We're forever thinking and making choices from those thoughts. What we chose to wear today, what we had for breakfast, was made with conscious thought. How we choose to see our life experiences is our conscious mind at work. Our reactions to our experiences are also conscious thoughts, from how we react to a driver that cuts us off, to our delight over the antics of a baby or a pet. This is our consciousness in play. We may not be paying attention, so that our reactions seem to happen without our consciously thinking about them. But at some level, they are learned. The person who reacts to the other driver with road rage has learned this reaction. Our alarm at a snake in our yard stems from a learned fear of snakes. So most of our seeming knee-jerk reactions really stem from a learned response that we have consciously come to believe. A true path of self-discovery leads us to looking at our set of beliefs about ourselves and the world, and to begin to change those ideas, attitudes, and beliefs that no longer serve us. And all of this is done at the conscious level. The subjective level is what Ernest Holmes calls the law of mind. It's the subjective aspect that is the servant of spirit. It acts upon our thoughts. It creates from what it has been given by the conscious aspect of our mind. We call it law because it creates with mathematical precision that which the conscious mind gives to it. We find this played out in the Genesis story. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the earth. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. From this reservoir of consciousness that is without form, we choose our thoughts. Let there be, and there is the interplay of conscious choice with subjective creativity, which manifests then in our experience. At this subjective level, there's a power that seems to be limitless. Deepak Chopra calls this pure potentiality. For the subjective level, there is the potential for all creativity. And while that pure potentiality is unlimited in scope, it cannot manifest without conscious choice. So you and I limit or expand our own pure potentiality through our conscious thinking. In our teaching, we often use the metaphor of the interplay between the seed and the soil. The soil is that, excuse me, the soil is that medium that nurtures the seed and allows it to grow and flourish. But the soil cannot make an apple seed grow into a pear tree or a radish seed grow into corn. The soil has unlimited potential in its ability to feed and act upon any seed, but each seed must reap its particular plant. There is no decision making in the soil. It is the creative medium. The job of our subjective mind, like the soil, is to create what it has been given by the choices we have planted within it. It cannot argue with what it has been given any more than the soil can argue about the seed that has been planted. That is why we believe that to learn how to think is to learn how to live, for we are each drawing from life what we think into it. We were given this freedom of choice as our birthright to learn to use that freedom with wisdom and intelligence is to ultimately live an abundant, joyful life. Ernest Holmes says the road to self-discovery often calls for clearing away of the underbrush of ignorance, fear, superstition, and a sense of isolation, which has made us feel that we were unworthy, unheld, and lost. In the divine providence of good, salvation is unnecessary, but self-discovery is essential. We do not save that which was lost, we merely discover that which needs to be found. This correlation between our thoughts and our experiences is now commonly accepted in science and in mainstream religions, but it was a revelation in 1927. And quite a few years ago, as this correlation was beginning to be taken seriously by scientists, there was a study done in Maryland. A group of people living with similar diseases were divided into 3 groups. Their assignment was to last 3 weeks. The first group, before going to sleep, were to write down 5 things they resented. The second group were to write down 5 things they were grateful for. And the third group was asked to continue their usual routine, doing nothing different. Well, at the end of 3 weeks, the results showed major differences between the three groups. Those patients whose emphasis was on gratitude had significant improvement in their health and overall well-being. The group who did nothing had predictable results, and the group that emphasized anger and resentment had the poorest outcome. This scientific study simply proves what we already know and believe, that our thoughts really do influence our experience. And if we are to live a life of love, joy, freedom, and harmony, then that is what we need to choose to see. Excuse me. And I have an assignment this week for any of you who want to play along. Let's recreate the study, but we will all be part of the gratitude group. This whole month, I invite you to keep pad and pencil by your bed and don't turn off the light until you've written down 5 things for which you are grateful. Let your mind wander over the day you've just completed and find within your day something maybe ever so tiny for which to be grateful. Or look at the blessings that have occurred over your life and give thanks for those blessings. Write down 5 and go to sleep. And please don't write down 5 things for which to be grateful and then watch the late night news. Let your gratitude list be the last thing your mind is contemplating before you go to sleep. That way we've given our mind something beautiful to work on while we are sleeping, and there is great power in that. And believe me, things will start to happen. Little coincidences, synchronicities will occur. And that will prove to each and every one of us that we are on the right track to our path of self-discovery. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Donna. I was so inspired to hear your words today, and I was so inspired to do this song that I've done many times at the center. It's one of my personal favorites. It's by Janice Stanfield. It's called I'm Not Lost, I'm Exploring. If I could look down on this path I walked from somewhere way up high, I could see the crooked road that I have come. I walked a mile with sorrow, I walked a mile with joy, and now I'm less afraid of either one. For every tear I cried, there's a smile that I have earned. For every mile I walked, there's a lesson I learned. I am not lost, I am exploring. Life is an adventure worth enjoying. Though I may not know where I'm going, I am not lost, I am exploring. I am not lost, I am exploring. Some people choose to live their lives on quiet avenues, while others find a place in the parade. Some, like the art seekers, we walk down different roads, believing we can find a better way. And though I get discouraged, I won't be turning back. I have joy as my compass and faith as my map. I am not lost, I am exploring. Life is an adventure worth enjoying. Though I may not know where I'm going, I am not lost, I am exploring. I am not lost, I am exploring. All of us are headed for the same destination, so why not blaze a trail that's got imagination? I am not lost, I am exploring. Life is an adventure worth enjoying. Though I may not know where I'm going, I am not lost, I am exploring. I am not lost, I am exploring. Ooh.
We share our offering. We use the affirmation, my gift goes forth to bless and prosper. All it touches is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and substance of my supply. Share generously of my good, knowing that it returns to me abundantly. We would like to continue our messages and would appreciate your financial support. Please visit our website, www.cslaz.org, and click the donate button, and we thank you for your consideration. And now I turn our services over to Melinda for our closing affirmative prayer.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Reverend Donna and Heather, for inspiring us. We are grateful and blessed to bring you a weekly inspirational message via our YouTube channel, CSLAZ. In closing, I take a breath, knowing I am surrounded by universal mind. I tap into limitless possibility. I choose to remember that I am not limited by any past thinking. It's only a thought, and a thought can be changed. I choose my thoughts with care. I constantly have new insights and new ways of looking at my world. I am guided by divine mind. I'm willing to change and grow to be in alignment with good. All is well. All is well. All is well. In love with truth, I let go and I let the thing itself be. I'm so grateful for this knowing. I let it go and I let it be, and so it is.